Hello, ladies and gentlemen, 'tis I, Michael A. Grimm, aka the Multi-Voice. I have many voices, but one opinion. And, good news, a little update on my, Mad Men, series. I, finally have my friend of mine who was able to, do her lines, and now I am working on episode 2, and then after that I'll be working on episode 3, and then I'll get back to work, writing episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's how many issues this comic book has, and that's how many episodes I'm going to be writing. So, at least I'm back in business on this. But anyway, besides that, I'm going to talk to you guys about something. I know I kept mentioning it a lot, but I never got around to talk about it, but I think this is the time for me to talk about it since this is 2026, and I think it's time to be more updated to you guys. This time I'm going to be talking about a project I've been working on, and some of you do remember about the universe I created known as the Flash&Buck-Verse. And the final story on the Flash&Buck-Verse, now the reason why I call it the Flash&Buck-Verse because I started this whole thing with Flash Gordon meets Buck Rogers, and then I did the sequel where they meet again, so that's why I decided to call this universe the Flash&Buck-Verse. But besides that, I kept, and one thing it got me thinking, since I took two characters from the science fiction public domain, I think it's time I should introduce some more. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Guardians of the Galaxy shirt. I love this shirt. And of course, you saw me review the OG Guardians of the Galaxy thanks to these comic book series that I've read. And they kind of give me the idea of having my own cinematic universe, but with space heroes, and that's why the Flash&Buck-Verse started. And thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy, they gave me some inspiration because everybody's been doing their own superhero cinematic universe from the public domain, but nobody never tackles with the sci-fi heroes. So that's why I decided to start this. And the team I created for the Flash&Buck-Verse is none other than the Galactic Defenders. And right now, I decided to explain to you guys about the character and what they're all about. And I'm going to start off with the OG hero of them all, voiced by Jericho Keene, none other than Flash Gordon. Now, Flash Gordon was created by a comic book artist who is trying to rival against Buck Rogers, named Alex Raymond? Raymond? I think that's his name. And of course, they had Flash Gordon was owned by the DC Comics, which I don't have any graphic novels of. And I did do a review of Dynamite Entertainment, who made this, which I have this omnibus of Flash Gordon, the Man from Earth. But there is some other stuff from Dynamite Entertainment that I don't have. I don't have the Dynamite Entertainment of Flash Gordon Zagais. I heard about it. It's about talking about Flash Gordon's origin and some of the characters from the 80s movie and their backstory, and even hinting that Ming the Merciless is kind of like Hitler. And believe it or not, Dynamite Entertainment also made a prequel series, but not focusing on Flash, but focus on Ming the Merciless, called The Merciless: The Rise of Ming. Now, Dynamite Entertainment did those comics for a while, but they didn't keep them for long. I mean, if you saw my interview with Jericho Keene when I did my Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers interview, they were owned by another company, and the other company is called Mad Cave Comics. And now they made a new issue of Flash Gordon. So now Flash Gordon is no longer in Dynamite Entertainment, but now owned by Mad Cave Comics. Now let's get to the other hero, the one that I did the voice of because I'm more related to the character himself, is none other than Buck Rogers. Now, little origin, he was created by a pulp fiction magazine called Armageddon 2119 AD, written by Philip Francis Nolan. And of course, I even did the review of these, and of course, Dynamite Entertainment did these, which I did review. But sadly, they were the only Buck Rogers graphic novels that Dynamite Entertainment had made, because sadly they left it in a cliffhanger, and I guess they didn't keep the ownership of Buck Rogers for a while, so they left the issue in a huge cliffhanger. Such a shame. And then they made a brand new graphic novel comic series owned by a company who calls himself Hermes Press. And they made this graphic novel called Gravitas Angels. So now Buck Rogers is now owned by Hermes Press and no longer Dynamite Entertainment, which that is a shame. And of course, they even did a free comic book day issue, which I didn't have, and I wish I did. I wish I had that issue. And then all of a sudden I heard that Kickstarter, there's a new comic book company called Green Arrow Comics, and Kickstarter made a new Buck Rogers comic book series called Buck Rogers versus the Cyber Lords. Now, of course, I never got myself into Kickstarter because, I would be interested in getting a couple of comics from Kickstarter, but if they are available on Amazon, I will get them from Amazon. And that's what I got from Buck Rogers. And of course, like I said, Flash Gordon, he's an athlete. He's a jack of all trade, even though in the original comic strip, he was a polo player. But in the movie, they made him a football player. And then in the 2005's TV science fiction drama of Flash Gordon, he was a track runner. But in my audio, I decided to make him just a complete athlete, that he was a former Harvard college quarterback and now become a track runner, sort of combining the movie and the TV series. And as for Buck Rogers' origin, like I said in the interview, he was in a cave until the gas fumes put him in a cryostasis because he was caved in, and now he wakes up in the future. But in my issue, he was a former Air Force pilot, and he teamed up with NASA and joined the Space Force until he went up into space, and the meteor shower got his ship and put him in a cryo sleep until he woke up in the 25th century. I took that origin from the 1970s TV series of Buck Rogers and tried to make it more up to date, like Buck Rogers was a former Space Force, because that's something I wish I was a part of. If I joined the military, I would have loved to join the Space Force. But let's get to the other character that is also the member of the Galactic Defenders. I'm going to talk about John Carter of Mars. Now, his origin started in a pulp fiction book called The Princess of Mars back in 1912, written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And believe it or not, I mean, Marvel tried to. I mean, they did a short-lived comic book adaptation because of that Disney movie they'd done. But Dynamite Entertainment, they still own John Carter, and I have this omnibus of the Warlord of Mars, and there's John Carter and his Martian girlfriend Deja Thuris. Now, of course, after this, which is more based from the books themselves by Edgar Rice Burroughs, they decided to extend the adventure on the Dynamite Entertainment. So they did John Carter versus Deja Thuris. Like the relationship ain't going too good between John and Deja. And then they did like a spinoff called The Adventures of Deja Thuris. So now it's focusing on Deja Thuris being a warrior and such. But of course, I'm also going to be introducing two side characters that are sort of connected to the to John Carter. Like for instance, Edgar Rice Burroughs did not only wrote John Carter on Mars, he also created another character called Carson Napier from the book Carson of Venus. And of course the book was written back in 1938, and it's a story about a guy named Carson Napier. Instead of going into Mars, I mean, he was following John Carter's footsteps, except he didn't end up in Mars. He ended up in Venus, falls in love with a princess, except Venus is more advanced compared to Mars. Like, Venus has more technology involved, like hovering cars and such. And of course, they even tried to keep the legacy of Edgar Rice Burroughs going. They did a comic book of Carson of Mars. I mean, Carson of Venus, I mean. And then there was another character, believe it or not, it was written by Edwin Lester Arnold. And the character that he created was, of course, Gulliver Jones. And he started in the book called Gulliver of Mars back in 1905. And one thing I know about Gulliver Jones, unlike John Carter here, who is a former Confederate soldier who is tore up after the war since the Confederate had lost, and the world that he know was destroyed. And when he teleported himself on Mars, it gave him super strength and high jump ability, and it extended his life. Carson, in the other hand, was a lot like John Carter, except he was a member of the Confederates. And believe it or not, Dynamite Entertainment had him appeared in this one issue called Warriors of Mars, and it's the first time that John Carter met Gulliver Jones. And one thing I'm going to do in the story that Carson Napier is actually John Carter's nephew, who ended up on Mars, and Gulliver Jones, he's actually John Carter's brother-in-law because he married Deja Thuris' sister. Hey, it can happen. But now, besides the Warlord of Mars, which one of these days I am going to review the graphic novel of them, but they are really thick books. So it's going to take me a lot of time and a lot of patience for me to go through the books and review it for you guys. Because, I mean, these are all my favorites here. Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, and John Carter. Now there's a female character that I was surprised that she is also owned by Dynamite Entertainment. And I did the review of the movie based on her, which the character is none other than Barbarella. Now, Barbarella, created by John Claude Forrest, Barbarella was a French erotic sci fi comic. And of course, now Dynamite Entertainment did comic books about her now. And I don't approve of having space heroes who are flirts and turns out to be a space floozy. I knew how they made her in the movie. They made it corny, campy, and even knew that Barbarella, she sleeps with any alien guy that she likes. So, one thing I'm going to change on Barbarella is this. I decided to make her more like a space hippie who has an empath ability. She kind of has the same power like Diana Troy from Star Trek Next Generation. So she has emotion telepathic ability. She can sense emotions, kind of like kind of like Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. And I make her more like a cosmic hippie who has like a power of peace and tranquility, and even things happen when she meditates with the help of that space angel named Pygar. And of course, believe it or not, in the comics, they even cross over with Deja Thuris when they did Barbarella and Deja Thuris comics. Dynamite Entertainment decided to have Deja Thuris cross over with Barbarella. So that's why I'm putting Barbarella into the team. Now, I wanted to have a Doctor Who like character and also be like the Nick Fury of the group. He's the one who assimilate this team, put them all together. And the only character I thought who should be like that character is, of course, none other than Dr. Omega, based on a book by Arnold Gillespie. And you already know that I already did a review of Dr. Omega, since I reviewed this audio book that I have here, which I still have, and it's still entertaining nonetheless. So I just wanted to have a Doctor Who like character who gets involved with these space heroes, and since the original novel itself is in the public domain, so I could just use Dr. Omega as the one who puts them all together. And then there's the other characters that I also wanted to put in. This this one, I reviewed this character too. I want to introduce a British space hero who is like, what if Beagles, the airplane pilot, goes into space? And the character is Dan Dare, the pilot of the future, created by Frank Hobson. And I've seen the animated series they made, and believe it or not, Dynamite Entertainment even did the graphic novel of Dan Dare. I don't have it, but I wish I did. And of course, believe it or not, even Big Finish. I got the audio drama of Dan Dare from Big Finish. And it looks, it sounds kind of old fashioned, but it's really interesting. And I thought that Dan Dare would be like the British hero of the group, so he's more. And of course, I decided to do the voice of Dan Dare, so all I have to do is just talk with a proper British accent. Hello, I'm Dan Dare. They call me the pilot of the future. Oh, cheers, mate. Cheerio, pip pip. And then we need to talk about a character which I decided to let this character. I mean, this character was created by an author who is a big fan of Buck Rogers and decided to create his own character who idolized Buck Rogers, in which that character is Captain Future. Now, Captain Future, his name is Chris Newman. I mean, Kirsten Newman. Kirsten Newman. And he was written by Edward Hamilton. And one thing I know about Captain Future is that he was born to be a perfect human being, and he also has friends who goes along with him. Like he has an android who can shapeshift his face, and of course a big robot who is the muscle of the group. And he also meets this girl that he falls in love with. And of course, there's even a space commissioner who always calls him when he needs help. Now, I mean, his story started back in the Pulp Fiction era, so there's Pulp Fiction books about him. And of course, the Japanese seem to like the character, so they decided to do the animated. I mean, there's an anime series of Captain Future, and now they decided to make brand new novelization of Captain Future now. And I thought Captain Future deserved to be in this team. I decided to make Captain Future heard about Buck Rogers, which is my character, and he idolized him because he read all the history about him, and he looks up to him, and he wants to be like my character Buck Rogers. Which my character Buck Rogers tell him, "You're already a hero yourself. You don't have to look up for me. You have your friends. I mean, you have your own team." And of course, I have him going to be voiced by a good friend of mine, which he did half of the Looney Tunes back when I was doing that Justice League and Looney Tunes. Now, let's talk about another character, which a lot of people do say that he was the inspiration of the Green Lantern. And that character is called the Lynchman. Now, the Lynchman, his name is Kimball Kennison. And he was created by Doc Smith. And one thing I know about him, they did series of novels about him, and just like Captain Future, the Japanese got interested of him, so therefore they made an anime of the Lynchman. And then we need a space cowboy like character. So I found this character and I thought he was interesting enough, so therefore I'm going to introduce also David Starr, Space Ranger. And no, he's not like Buzz Lightyear. And believe it or not, he was created by the most famous science fiction author of all times, Isaac Asimov. That's right, the guy who did I, Robot and man, I forgot that other one. It's gonna pop up to me sooner or later. But anyway, he now Isaac Asimov, he wrote the books about the David Starr Space Ranger back in 1952. But sadly, he couldn't continue the book because back during the same time in the 50s, there was a sci-fi series called Space Ranger, and he wanted to avoid confusion. But one thing I do know about his story is that he is a space ranger, of course, but he's also like a cowboy because he ends up in a planet full of cowboys, so he knows how to ride a horse. And he's also like a detective, so he solves mysteries as well. And now we need to talk about another female character, since all these guys are male, and I need to bring in another female into it. So I decided to introduce Mista, the Moon Maiden. Created by Ross Gollin, who I don't have a picture of him anywhere, sadly. But one thing I've known that she appeared in the comic books back in 1945, and she was popular enough until her fame died down because the company was going not as popular as DC and Marvel. And of course, people always kept making their own version of Mista Mista of the Moon. But to me, I decided to combine her with another character. I found another Edgar Rice Burroughs book that was written back in 1926 called The Moon Maid. So I decided to combine Mista of the Moon with Moon Maid together, And of course, in my story, Mista is a mechanic, so she knows how to operate heavy machinery and such, like spaceships and, things with engines and such. And surprisingly, she's also the last of her kind because all of her people from the moon were destroyed, which I'm going to get to the villain who is responsible. And of course, believe it or not, like I said about um, Carson Napier of Venus, there's even an Edgar Rice Burroughs comics of the Moon Maid. And then there was another character I decided to add to it, and I find this character very cool. And he didn't appear in a comic book or in a novelization. He appeared in the radio show, the Old Time Radio. And of course, he's only there as an observer. You see, he's in league with Dr. Omega to watch the team and make sure the mission does not fail. Make sure they succeed in their mission. And the mysterious astronaut character, is none other than Dantro the Planet Man. Now, for those of you who don't know about Dantro the Planet Man, Dantro the Planet Man, he is a member of the Council of Planets, and he only fights for truth and fair game. And I listened to, he appeared in the radio series of the Planet Man back in 1950, and I had to say it was the most awesome radio series I've ever listened to in my entire life, and I thought this character should be the member of the Galactic Defender, except make him to be like a mysterious character who pops out of nowhere and secretly helps them out, but but always let them do the job and make sure that they succeed in their mission. And these are all the the Galactic Defenders. And I'll tell you one thing, if it wasn't from the Guardians of the Galaxy, they didn't inspire me to create this team and these characters that I decided to use in the public domain. Since everybody's been using comic book characters and superheroes from the public domain, why not I use sci-fi space heroes from the public domain? And I know some of you are going to be asking me, what about the villain? Who's going to be the villain in all this? Well, is from the this villain is from the John Carter's universe, and this bad guy, he goes by the name of Mete Shang. And for those of you who are wondering about who is he may look human, but actually he's a white Martian from the planet Mars. And one thing about him, he hates other species. I mean, if you ever read Barsoom, aka Mars, from the John Carter's universe, there are the black Martians, the red Martians, the yellow Martians, and the white Martians. And Mete Shang is a white Martian who hates all the other Martians. And of course, he has a hatred towards John Carter because he had a daughter, and according to the comic books I have here, she sacrificed herself to save John. So in this story, he blames John Carter for the death of his daughter. So he has a hatred towards all species. And his goal, he's creating a machine that would wipe out every single species throughout the galaxy, make every single planet unavailable for life. He's bringing extinction to all the species throughout the galaxy. So it's up to Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and John Carter to stop him. Because his plan, after he wipes out every single species throughout the planet, he thinks that his people can travel through all those other planets and colonize them. And that's his plan. Very intense, huh? And one song I do enjoy listening to is that one song called Legend Never Dies. Now, I know I don't have the right to use the song, but one thing I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a speech and I'll be quoting the song. I'm sure I don't get a copyright claim after quoting some of the lyrics from the song. I mean, my character Buck Rogers is going to be saying, I look at you guys, and I see you all as space heroes, but now I see what we all really are. We are all legends. And you know what they say? Legends never die. When the world is calling you, you can hear them screaming out your name. Legend never dies. And that's exactly what I'm going to use in my audio. So, if you guys find this very interesting, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe for more, and stay tuned for more review I'm probably going to be doing for this year, and also stay tuned for episode 2 and 3 of my Madman audio. So, this is Michael A. Graham, aka the Multi-Voice, saying to you all, I remember so I can jog your memory.